Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Elevate. My name is Jessica.
My name is Darwin.
And today we're going to be talking about people who are Latinos but don't speak Spanish.
I feel targeted.
So I used to feel like it was a little wrong for you to be Latino and not speak Spanish. I grew up in a household where my mom obviously spoke Spanish to me because she didn't really know English.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no other choice but to learn the language. I also have the advantage that my mother did put me in bilingual class when I started school, which was also an advantage for me, which is the reason why I speak Spanish so well now that I'm an adult.
I think I was in bilingual for like 1 year maybe.
Okay. So then after that, you were just in monolingual class.
Actually, no, I was in bilingual from kindergarten to 3rd grade. Now that I think about it. Clearly.
So you don't remember like learning, did you ever take like Spanish class? Yeah, but
no.
it kind of did. It wasn't enough years for you
Yeah.
to like really soak it in. Well, I was in bilingual class until I graduated my elementary school, and my elementary school ended. The school I was at, it went up to 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So up until 6th grade, I was in bilingual class, which I didn't understand how much of an advantage that was for me. I just, it was what it was for me. It wasn't a choice for me. My mom just put me in bilingual class. And I actually think it was a great thing she did that because, like I said, a lot of people are very surprised when I tell them that I was born here in New York and I wasn't born in the Dominican Republic when they've only heard me speak Spanish because they say I speak very good Spanish for someone who was born here.
Yeah.
And, it was just kind of normal for me. I didn't actually realize how much of a struggle it is to continue to speak Spanish or speak Spanish the more proper way, if you want to say it that way, for kids who go straight into school just English. And now as a mom of 2, well, my daughter isn't in school yet, but my son is already in the 4th grade. And I think the biggest mistake we made was not putting him in bilingual class. And the reason why I didn't put him in bilingual class was because I felt like my mother is the one that babysits him. Anytime he's not with us, he's with my mother. And my mother doesn't speak English. She's always speaking Spanish. So to me, I said, okay, well, he's going to learn English regardless. We speak English. But he's also going to learn Spanish regardless because, he's going to be around my mom and my dad all the time, and they only speak Spanish. So to me, I thought he doesn't need to be in bilingual class. He's going to learn Spanish with my mother.
And we also thought his primary language is English anyways. Like he'll learn whatever he needs to learn in Spanish from us.
I didn't really think about it that way. We're bilingual. I mean, I'm more comfortable speaking in Spanish than you are, but it's not like you can't have a conversation with someone in Spanish. Yeah. But here's the thing. He wasn't born here. He was born in Venezuela, but he came here very young. So all his years, he remembers it here in New York. So both of us kind of growing up in New York, we're both bilingual, but for some reason, we have more dialogue in English. And we didn't really realize, we never really sat down and analyzed, well, you know what? We talk more English than we do Spanish. Yeah. We just didn't think about it. And like I said, I always felt like he's going to be around my mom so much, he's going to learn Spanish. And we, once in a while, we speak in Spanish as well. It's not like we say, oh, no, we can't talk Spanish. We're not that type of people. We're not ashamed to speak Spanish or of our culture. We just literally don't think about what language we're going to talk in when we're going to talk. We just talk.
Yeah, and it's usually in English.
Yeah. And so my son is 9 years old now, and his Spanish is like gringo Spanish. It's so funny. And we are to blame. We're totally to blame.
His Spanish is like his dad's Spanish.
Oh, it's worse than your Spanish.
That is.
And now I feel like kind of guilty that I didn't put him in bilingual class. Now I'm thinking about putting my daughter in bilingual because I was definitely wrong about thinking that he was just going to pick up on the Spanish because my mother would speak. And it's like he understands perfectly when you talk to him in Spanish. But when it comes to speaking it, because he's speaking English in school all day, he obviously feels more comfortable just speaking in English. And whenever he does speak Spanish, is very broken Spanish. Very, he tries.
Yeah, I think Xena should be in bilingual because if you think about it, if you do it young when they're that young, it's okay because they'll probably be out of bilingual by like 4th, 5th grade. So at least they get the basics of
Right.
like, because that's the problem with Armani. He doesn't even know like the proper basic words to put sentences together.
Like,
So
yo quiero va.
yeah,
Yo quiero qué? Yo quiero ir, Armani. Yo quiero ir. No, yo quiero va.
he's here by the way. He's like, why are you talking?
He's
about
like, no, what are you saying? That's not true. But it's fine. I know he tries, and, every time he says something incorrectly, I try to correct him so he gets better. But, yeah, I feel like it would have been a lot better and more of an advantage if he would have been in bilingual class from the very beginning. Because now I'm not going to change him because I don't want to confuse him.
Yeah.
So, he's just going to have to get better at Spanish as the years go by and we start correcting his speaking. But he completely understands a person if they talk to him in Spanish because, his grandma talks to him in Spanish all day whenever he's around her. So, at least that's good. But, yeah, I think that's what happened with me as well. I was in bilingual all of elementary, and then I was in monolingual class. But that's all I needed to have the foundation. Just my elementary school years in bilingual class.
And I think I just learned, it's not like I don't know Spanish, right? But I don't know a lot of the proper words.
Yeah,
to
you're
say.
more like street Spanish.
Yeah. But I could have a long conversation in Spanish, but it's not going to be like TV style like her.
Yeah, a lot of people say that when I mean, I could, don't get me wrong, I could do both. I can, if I'm talking to someone who's like talking to me in like street Spanish, I can have a conversation with them as well, and I understand perfectly what they're saying. But I also can have a very professional conversation with someone in Spanish, and that's usually what surprises a lot of people when they hear me talk that kind of Spanish.
Sometimes she'd be saying like some brand new ass words I've never heard in Spanish. I'd be like,
brand new for you.
Nah, you be making up these.
Like the other day, I was like, I don't know what's going on. Like my hormones, like I'm sweating a lot from like mis axilas.
What?
Estoy sudando mucho de las axilas.
Apparently that's armpits. In my world, armpits is sobaco.
I think that is like a street term for
I've never heard that word that you just said. I've heard auxilio, which means help.
Auxilio. That's hilarious. So the reason why this conversation came up as well is because I was seeing a video a couple weeks back made by Beatrice, Cooking with Beatrice. Shout out to you, girl. And she was talking about how she was being bullied and being made fun of because she does cooking videos with like mostly Spanish dishes, but her Spanish isn't the best because she didn't grow in a household where they would speak the language to her, I'm assuming. And so, they call her names like whitewash or whatever. And I just think it's so wrong. Before, I didn't really understand why you would come from a Spanish or Latino family and not speak Spanish at all. To me, I was like, that's how do you communicate? But then I started learning, that then you also have Puerto Ricans who their parents, most of them came here when they were really young or they were born and raised in New York. And so the parents know English, and so they're also talking English to their kids, which is our situation now. And you just forget the language, which is not saying that it's acceptable. I'm not saying that it's okay. Because I do believe that you need to keep your culture alive, and you should not feel embarrassed to speak Spanish. If anything, you should be proud to be bilingual. And to even speak more than 2 languages, be trilingual. that is a something to be proud of. That is something that adds value to you as a person. So you should never feel like I don't want to talk Spanish. Like why? Because that's something you should be proud of. That's something that comes from, your culture, your people, your background. And even though, like, for example, he was born in Venezuela, I was born here in New York, it doesn't matter where I was born from. My blood, Dominican, the Dominican essence is in my blood because both of my parents are Dominican. They were born in the Dominican Republic. So no matter whether I was born here or over there, my parents, their roots are in the Dominican Republic. So I should never feel ashamed or like I don't want to speak Spanish. So I'm not, with those people who, want to bring down the Spanish language and it's like, oh, you're in America, like speak English. No, I don't feel like that is acceptable or okay. But now I do have a new understanding onto how easily it can be forgotten, how easily it can be lost in a family, especially when both parents speak English and you're not really putting that much thought into the fact that, hey, let's try to speak more Spanish so that our kids, our language doesn't get lost. And so I think it's very important to keep that in mind so that, when your kids are growing up, you are teaching them somehow, trying to keep the language alive.
Yeah, and I feel like the internet is just so toxic because what the hell does it even matter if she doesn't speak? It's like saying, like, what if she loved to cook Chinese food? Does she have to speak Chinese in order to cook Chinese food? Or
I know. I do feel like it's very toxic, and people are their intentions aren't good when they do that. Because one thing is to encourage someone to learn how to speak their native language, and something else is to be bullying them because you don't know their circumstances. You don't know why they don't speak the language. And even though she doesn't speak Spanish, she's trying to connect with her heritage. She's trying to connect by cooking, those traditional plates. So it really isn't necessary to bully someone based on that. You just don't know the circumstances, the situations, their environment that they grew up in. And it's not necessary. It's not necessary. If anything, we should be correcting her. If she tries to say something in Spanish and she says it the wrong way, we should be saying, hey, like, that's not really how you say it. This is the way you say it, not trying to bully her, but, trying to teach her, how to do it. Because I know for Beatrice, she's had a very difficult childhood. She was in the foster care system and she didn't have a very easy, normal upbringing. And so that in itself, I think she should be very proud of herself to begin with because she's had tremendous progress with her life given her background. And people like that really make me feel grateful for my upbringing. And, and it also makes me admire them as people. To see someone who's gone through so much hurt, who didn't really have structure in their home, or like a mom who was present, a dad who would protect, go from that to building a beautiful family and have such a beautiful spirit, online. It really makes me have another sense of gratitude, for that person and admiration for that person, because coming from that type of environment to you flourishing completely and just saying, you know what, my upbringing was not the best, but guess what? I don't care. I'm going to make the best of my life, and I can't control what happened to me back then, but now I'm going to decide to make my life better for me, my husband, and my kids. Like, I think that's beautiful and very inspiring.
That's a fact.
Okay, so the reason why I'm saying this is just don't shame people for being Latino and not speaking Spanish. If anything, encourage them to start learning the language, to be proud of where they come from, to be proud of where their heritage, their culture, and to start embracing their languages and to be proud and seek out learning to speak another language. But let's not shame people for not speaking Spanish because there's different circumstances in people's lives and we just don't know why they haven't. And now more than ever, I understand, like I said, how easily you can lose the language without intentionally wanting to lose the language. So, yeah, and for those of us who are young parents, let's keep that in mind. It's a blessing for our kids to be able to speak two languages. speaking two languages for me has only opened doors.
So should Latinos dance bachata, merengue, and salsa?
I mean, but that's you don't have to dance because not everybody was born to dance or likes to dance. But I mean,
Is that shameful?
That they don't dance? I don't think so.
I don't know. Latino culture, since music, I feel like it's so.
I mean, I think maybe other cultures maybe might look at you, or maybe within the same culture, they might look at you like, oh my God, look at this, I don't know, Dominican who doesn't know how to dance bachata or whatever. But that's something that's so personal. I mean, you can come from the Dominican Republic and you just don't have rhythm. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, what do you want me to do? I don't think that because you're Spanish, you're supposed to know how to dance.
I just say it because I've seen that before too. Those comments, like, I mean, people
no lo bailaron cuando era chiquito.
Well, people tell me that. They be like, in the comments, they be men in TikTok being like, yo, this guy didn't, como es? A este lo brincaron cuando chiquito. Meaning like.
Ridiculous. That's honestly, for me, that's just a hater. Because it's not like you don't have rhythm. Like, maybe you don't dance like, I don't know, like a professional bachata dancer, like performing.
Watch your mouth.
Maybe you're not like doing performance like steps, but you have rhythm.
Yeah, I do my 1 2 3 step, 1 2 3 step.
So I wouldn't pay attention to those people. But either way, I don't think that because you're Spanish, you're supposed to know how to dance. It's just not. It's a very personal thing. Now something different is for you to be Latino and you hear, let's say, our type of music and you're ashamed of it. Like, then that's a different story. But if you listen to it, you enjoy it, you're just not the type to dance, like, that's not something to be ashamed of either. That's a very personal trait. There's people who love dancing and were born to dance. And then there's people who just weren't. Yeah. Who were just born to sit down and listen to it. Or maybe not even, who knows? Like, everybody has their own preferences when it comes to music and that kind of thing. As long as we're not shaming, or feeling ashamed, I think that, everything is good.
I agree.
All right, so that's it for today's podcast, you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Let us know your comments. What have been your experiences with this? Do you have children that don't speak Spanish, but you are Spanish? Let us know in the comments down below. Are we the only ones who have an Americanized Dominican? Let us know how you feel about this topic. Don't forget to like this video if you've gotten to the end of the video and you've enjoyed. If you're here on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Hit the bell so you can be notified every time we post a video. If you're listening to us on any of the audio platforms, don't forget to leave us your reviews. And that's it for today's podcast, you guys. Thank you so much for watching or listening. Until next time.
Peace.